Zubac is on him. And this is for the win.
So how did we get here? And did this basket count? And what rule even covers this type of play?
That's where it adds that layer of confusion to where it's made people go off the rails and just make up rules completely.
If you haven't seen the firestorm on social media about it, don't worry, all will be revealed. And the short answer is, the basket counts, the Nuggets won, but probably not for the reason you think. What made this play even crazier wasn't that Jokic decides to run to the three-point line for a fadeaway game-winning shot. It was that they had a 22-point lead in the fourth quarter and lost every bit of it in a furious Clippers comeback. Jokic is known for a sixth sense when he's in the high post and back to the basket, probably hearing Kawhi's footsteps so he can protect the ball. No matter, the claw gets it loose, but check the no-look pass while being fouled by Harden on the forearm that gets Watson the dunk. And make no mistake about it, this game was as testy as they come, and the refs were doing their best to manage this, which is maybe why they didn't want to decide if Simmons was pulling or Jokic was bulldozing, and it led to this Brown three-pointer after he picks up his right foot and replaces it to regain rhythm and nail it over Norman Powell for a 16-point lead. But the Clippers stormed right back behind Powell's three-pointers in the fourth. With a drive by Harden, the defense must rotate to help, and it's Murray's job to split the difference between the corner and the wing, then close out wherever the pass goes. Murray leans to his right just a little too much, and that's all the room Powell needs to cut it to 10. And when Jokic steps up to prevent a three by Harden off the ball screen, Murray correctly rotates over to the roller. It was Michael Porter Jr. that was late following the pass, and now we've got ourselves a game. Was it ironic or just fitting that the game gets tied on a tip-in, as Harden hits Murray with a tween cross into the middle, forcing Jokic to step up to help? This allows Zubac to fill the void, bump Jokic enough to neutralize him, then bat it right back in the basket. I think we were all excited about the prospects of 5 more minutes in this absolute zoo they call Intuit Arena, and the Nuggets certainly weren't going to run anything fancy despite having a solid 8 seconds on the clock. With Kawhi closing fast, he realized the most important thing was to get a shot in the air towards the basket, and I'm the champion of one-footed threes, but this one was insane. And make no mistake about it, he got his right foot behind the line, his left foot off the floor, and then jumped, making this a three-point attempt. An off-foot, fading away, 2 defenders in his face affair that had little hope of going in. So who was guarding Aaron Gordon? From the start, it was James Harden. And can you blame him for assuming this was the last shot? I don't know, but had he ran over there to box him out, I sincerely doubt Gordon could do this. Now, the whole world stopped because no one was sure if this basket counted. The refs in real time counted it, but they knew right away they were going to review it. Bogdanovic was certain it didn't count, while Gordon was certain it did. And that's when the confusion started. Tons of people were convinced this counted because the ball was in the cylinder before the red light came on. And while there is a rule that states when a ball enters the basket from above and passes through the net, it's a made field goal. However, that is simply not the rule that applies here. What we have to pay attention to is the clock and whether he released the ball before the clock expires. It's exactly like a buzzer-beating jump shot that has to leave the shooter's hand before the red light appears. And none of these angles we had were conclusive to me. They all looked like he had at least a finger or two touching the ball when the clock expired. But then we got the ruling from crew chief Zach Zarba.
After review, the ball was deemed to get out of Gordon's hands right before the LED line. This is a successful basket, and the game is over.
Nuggets win.
On Twitter, this still didn't tamp down the confusion or the vitriol directed at me. Without examining the rulebook closely enough, many simply assumed that the ball got into the basket before the time expired, and that was why it counted. And that's why I had to bring friend of the breakdown Chip Clark onto the show to discuss this in even more detail. Chip is a college referee and a complete and utter expert on the rulebook, so his interpretations are worth their weight in gold. So, Chip, we need you. We've never needed you more on a clip than this one, as I think this will go down as one of the craziest endings of all time. So, there's some confusion about the rules. That's why you're here. So, give us an insight into what the confusion centered around in terms of how this play unfolded.
Absolutely, man. What an incredible ending. I've never seen in all my years of officiating or watching basketball something closer than this. This was unbelievably close. We were talking about it last night, but the confusion comes in here, in my opinion, coach. It comes in because of the difference in a last second shot attempt from this one based on other ones that we've seen in the past, right? Most of the time, people wouldn't bat an eye if somebody's pulling up for a 3-point field goal attempt as time is expiring. They would know that that ball has to be released from their hands prior to the expiration of time, right? The only difference here is a dunk attempt is what we're seeing, right? And that's where it adds that layer of confusion to where it's made people go off the rails and just make up rules completely on X or where other social media sites. And then that's where the confusion is coming in from them, because now you have a dunk attempt, but the same rule applies. Okay. The ball has got to be out of Gordon's hands, not touching the ball at all prior to the expiration of time in order for this field goal attempt to be scored. And we see in the clip that the NBA showed there is indisputable evidence that it was out of his hands and he was not touching the ball with his fingertips when the time expired. And therefore, we have one of the craziest endings that we've ever seen in NBA playoff history, and probably in basketball altogether, that secured the win for the Nuggets to force Game 5.
Absolutely. I mean, again, it's as close as we're ever going to see any play ever. Nothing could ever be closer. I think even Worldwide Wob had a clip of it where, it's touching his hand and you can kind of see the very beginning of the red light going on, like in that second before it completely illuminates. So we're not.
And I even sent something.
We have to figure out if if you can make the light go on any faster than that. I don't think so. So that's how close it was. But again, I think that was perfect the way you described it, in terms of people get really bogged down on certain rules and not how they kind of fit together and what might supersede something else. So I think it's fair to say this is a lot like what you'd see on a last-second jump shot, that either they got it off before the buzzer or they did not get it off before the buzzer. And everyone seems to be pretty clear on that kind of a play. Was that fair?
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, there would be no outrage whatsoever if this was a jump shot, right? But the rules do not decipher between a jump shot and a dunk attempt on a play like this when you're dealing with the expiration of time. The ball just has to be released from their hand when the expiration of time occurs. Here's the thing. We've seen a lot of misconceptions about, and the reason this is so crazy is that ball, while it's in Gordon's hands, is below the ring level, right? It is in the basket. And so it makes everybody think, well, that's automatically a basket. The play ends there. No, the play does not end there, right? The rules are very clear that in this situation, the expiration of time is what ends a period. However, there are exceptions. When there's a shot attempt, which is like this, dunk attempt doesn't matter, a field goal attempt, the ball has to be out of the hands, right, before the expiration of time. And that's really what it boils down to. It does not matter that the ball was in the net. Keep in mind, too, the clock stops in the last 2 minutes of the fourth period on a made basket, right, on a successful field goal. And so in this case, if there was any time remaining on the clock when he throws this down, the clock would not stop until the ball clears the net. All right, that's another thing. People are saying you could add time here because if it was out of his hands with 0.1 on the clock, then you could add time. No, or since it was in his hands and in the basket with 0.1, it's got to be out of his hands. And this is as close as it gets. I mean, you're talking about going frame by frame. One frame has it with the ball touching his fingertips, and then that next frame is when the LED light illuminates and the ball is not touching his fingertips. And listen, I sent you that play last night. I sent you a clip, and you talked about Worldwide Wob talking about this. You can see in one of those clips that the clock is turning from 0.1 to 0.0, and the LED light is starting to illuminate. But by the time the clock fully hits zeros and the red light is completely illuminated, that's when it's out of his hands. And it's as close as it's ever going to get. Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. So I'm glad we can be here to break that down and make that clear exactly how that rule works, because, again, a lot of confusion. And we're just here to help. There's no need to be upset about it if you think that there's something else and you get some other information. It's just a conversation. And, no matter what, no one's trying to be condescending or anything like that. We're just trying to help. That's all it is. And, I do find that, like, the condescending thing comes back to me when I'm measured and patient and just trying to explain something in the face of a lot of vitriol and hostility. Somehow it still gets stirred back on me as the bad guy. I don't know exactly how that works, but
You're just the messenger, coach. Like, it's unbelievable. You're just trying to help. That's all we're trying to do, guys. Honestly, we understand why you may have certain opinions about stuff. What I don't understand, honestly, is how somebody can say one way or the other if they've never actually studied the rules, right? We get so many opinions thrown out from people that have never actually read the rules. If they had, they would not have that opinion in the first place. You know what I mean? And so we're just trying to help, and we're people that study the rules far more than the average fan, to be honest with you. And again, Zach Zarba and all the officials in the NBA study the rules way more than them, and even me. And so the fact that you've got a pool report where Zach Zarba breaks it down plainly and clearly, as simply as possible, that the ball, what they were reviewing was whether the ball was on his fingertips or not prior to the LED lights expiring to indicate the expiration of time or not. That's what they were reviewing. There is no other way to decipher this play. That's the only thing that matters in this case.
For sure. And don't forget, sports fans, at B-Ball Breakdown, we're not a channel, we're a conversation. You in? Are you in, Chip?
Always, man. Always. Thanks, Coach Nick.